Hello and welcome to Kill the Clock. It's Sunday, May 25th, and this is the first official podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the NBA. I'm here with Ravneet Singh and Anoop Dhillon, and I'm Shaheen Koigani. And so, guys, let's talk about the conference finals so far. What has been the most exciting series, and what are your predictions for today's game, which is starting in 20 minutes, the Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs with Serge Ibaka coming back out of nowhere.
I guess the most interesting series has been the Miami Heat Pacers series, just because that series is relatively close. The Spurs have been dominating in the other series. They've won handily the first two games. I guess we were expecting more from these Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals just after amazing first round. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I think that the first round was really exciting, maybe the most exciting ever. And since then, the playoffs have been really disappointing. I think now that Serge Ibaka's back, I'm hoping that the OKC Spurs series will get more entertaining, but I guess we'll see.
How is he back? I don't understand. I heard that the calf muscle that he has is only on a like 15% of the population. He injures that, which is, unheard of. No one gets this type of injury, and then he's going to come back when 50% of the fibers have been messed up. This guy's a beast.
yeah, there's no denying that he's not a beast, but I think Jamal Crawford had a similar injury, calf injury, and so did Danny Granger, and they both missed a good amount of time. This guy came back sooner and had a more severe injury, which is the most surprising thing about it. I guess the bigger question is how many minutes he's going to play, because if he's not going to play that many, then we could see a similar result in the first two games of this series.
Apparently, Scott Brooks said that he's going to have no restrictions on his minutes. So he's averaging 34 minutes a game in the playoffs, and it looks like he's going to play that. He's not going to be close to 100%. So I don't know how much he's going to, mean to their interior defense, which has just been getting ravaged in the first two games. I mean, but if you look at Ibaka, I mean, the Thunder without Ibaka, they're giving up 65% in the paint, field goal percentage to the Spurs, which is obviously bad. But if they have him on the floor in the first four games of the regular season against the Spurs, they were averaging in the paint 47%. So I don't know how much Ibaka is going to contribute being less than 100%, but we're going to find out soon enough if he's just how much of a beast this guy is. And I'm hoping that the Thunder could come back, but it's really looking like an uphill battle at this point.
It's interesting because before this series, I read a tweet that said San Antonio expected Serge Ibaka to play the whole time. This was before the first game. So it's weird. And about the minutes restriction, they say 15 minutes, but I think it's pretty hard to limit minutes, especially in this kind of game. I think it's, pretty must win for OKC. So I think they'll play him down the stretch, no matter what they say.
Yeah, I mean, Brooks has said that he'll have no restrictions, but I think that he doesn't even know how he's going to look on the floor, because this is Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals. I mean, he might suffer a setback, and but if he doesn't, I think he's going to approach the 30-minute mark and possibly go beyond that if he doesn't suffer a setback. Because, I mean, let's face it, they need him out there. He means so much to their interior defense. I mean, I believe he was second in the league in shot blocking behind Anthony Davis. He's going to mean so much, and I think if they want to get back to the series, they're going to need him to be a beast.
Well, who do you have in Game 3 for the OKC series, and do you expect Brooks to make any changes to the lineup tactically or whatnot?
Oh man. Well, Brooks has made an interesting change, which I thought he should have done. Reggie Jackson's starting. Cephalosha is going to be moved to the bench, which I think is going to help because, I mean, Reggie Jackson really killed the Spurs in the regular season. I mean, Popovich kind of, he likes to sometimes deal in hyperboles. He called him a Spurs killer, but he really hasn't come to play. I mean, not really anyone has come to play in the first couple games. So I think I would like to see them make a comeback just because. I was expecting this series to be a lot of fun. But honestly, I think it's a little too late. I think the Spurs are going to nick a game, one of these two games, and they'll probably. I don't see it getting past 6 games, honestly.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think OKC is going to win this game, and I think they could actually win this series if they win these next 2 games for sure. And it really depends on Ibaka's health, like we were mentioning. But I could see something happening like back in 2012, where OKC was down 2 games and then they won the next 4. I could see something like that happening again. This was a team that swept the Spurs in the regular season. They're not afraid of them. They know how to play. They're used to this team, and they're ready for them now.
I mean, hey, San Antonio was preparing for Serge to play in this series, as Anup said. So, I mean, I think that they'll come out with just as much fire as they need to, and I think San Antonio, to me, this entire season has looked just so impressive after being robbed of a championship last year. To have the perseverance to play better this season and win Executive of the Year. For R.C. Buford, win Coach of the Year for Popovich. They've just been class all season. And, I mean, I think the other factor is Ibaka obviously is huge. But OKC, no one else is showing up. Their bench has to do something to stifle the Spurs bench, which is averaging 40 points a game. So I think, there's just so much you have to do. You have to play, like, perfect against San Antonio. They just look on fire right now. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. Anup, what do you think?
I agree. I think that the Spurs have all the answers. I think that they are prepared for Ibaka to be back. I think Tony Parker is going to continue carving them up, and I think it comes down to a difference in coaching. I think we say it every year, but maybe this is finally the year that we see Scott Brooks get fired.
And that's what everyone wants, isn't it?
I mean, there's a reason.
Yeah, I mean, actually, let's delve into that for a second. So, what is it about Scott Brooks that you guys don't like? I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. I mean, his team is, top 10 in offensive and defensive efficiency every year. But I think I think we know what the problem is, but I'll let Ravneet go into it. What is the problem when they get into playoffs? What happens with a Brooks team?
I don't know if it's that it just happens in the playoffs as much as we just notice it in the playoffs. I think this is a problem that we've seen in the regular season. We've seen for multiple years where there's not a good structure. You don't see that many plays run from OKC's side. It's a lot of ISO ball, and the Spurs are kind of like the exact opposite. They're running play after play after play. It's very organized, very efficient, and we're just not seeing that from Brooks, and we're not seeing any improvement from them for like any years. They've been the same team pretty much, except for them losing Harden. So.
The problem with Brooks is, I mean, when you get into playoffs, right? I mean, in the regular season, it's fine. You could have this kind of simple offense and structure in the regular season where the talent will just overcome normal teams, right? Pretty much everybody. But when you get into playoffs and you get in a 7-game series where teams are scheming against you to stop you, it's way too easy to stop the Thunder because you know where the offense is coming from. There's no structure to get anyone else involved, and that's the problem. I think when you face defenses that have all this time to coach the players up and prepare against you, Brooks has to make adjustments, and he hasn't he's made lineup adjustments. I mean, he's going to make one today with Reggie Jackson. Hopefully, that'll provide a spark in the first quarter. But in terms of their offensive structure, it's just way too simple, and it's easy to diagnose for opposing defenses.
Another problem I have with Brooks is that he just sticks to the same lineup. I mean, Perkins has been ineffective for multiple years, at least the last two, and he still is consistent in starting him when there's better options. Look at Steven Adams this year. He's probably outperformed him, but he only got 17 minutes in game 1, and that doesn't make any sense because Ibaka got hurt in game 6 of versus the Clippers, and he played 40 minutes there, and then he doesn't play much at all in game 1. It's not very consistent. I don't like his lineups there. We'll see what the lineup
game 3 is a nice place to start
tonight,
right?
But I'm not impressed so far by Brooks.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have the home crowd behind them. Obviously, I think they want more of a scoring punch because they're not getting enough from their bench to offset the Spurs bench scoring. So Reggie Jackson has, I think he can provide that. I mean, I think Steven Adams has actually stepped up pretty well for a rookie. I think he's done a pretty good job. I think he shows some promise, like to be a capable starting center in this league. I don't know like what they're going to do with Perkins in the future, but I think his contract's up in a year, and I'd be very surprised if he's still on the team. I'd be surprised if Brooks is still on the team, but knowing OKC, I think they would give him another chance with the kind of like, oh, okay, Serge was injured, he wasn't 100%. We'll give you another year, Scotty. You have to come through next year. If he's given another year, we know that's going to be the year. He's going to be on the hot seat 100%.
Well, I guess I'm debating that he should have been on the hot seat earlier, and like I said, I don't think he's doing that great of a job, and I think there are better coaches out there, such as Jeff Van Gundy, Hollins, maybe even Mark Jackson. I mean, I think
Maybe.
Brooks is under all those coaches, to be honest. But I think Anoop might disagree with me there.
I disagree there, but yeah.
Well,
I think there definitely are better coaches out there.
if you don't like ISOs, you might not like Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
He's gonna put ISOs at the top of the elbow and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I think he's a good defensive coach, but so is I think Brooks also. I think he gets a lot from his team. I think he's a good man manager. I think he gives Russell Westbrook too much leash. But if you were to ask Scott Brooks, I mean, in every interview he says, I'm totally fine with having Westbrook go crazy, pretty much. Westbrook. I've always said the Thunder, if they go as Westbrook goes. He's not even the best player on the team. Kevin Durant's the second best player in the league, but he's not the reason they win games. Russell Westbrook is the reason they go to a championship or not. It's all Westbrook. It's his team. I've always thought that.
I think as Russ goes, OKC will go, but that's just because Kevin Durant's more consistent, and he also deserves more shots. I don't like it when I see the second best player taking more shots than the MVP.
I mean, I agree. I think he's definitely less consistent than Kevin Durant. I think that Kevin Durant is obviously it's his team, but he needs help, and Westbrook's the only one who can be there, especially with Ibaka out. That being said, I feel like Kevin Durant get away with too much. If this is his team, then he should get all the blame and all the praise, which I feel like other superstars get, say LeBron, but I don't think that that's happening to Kevin Durant.
I agree.
I think that for someone who's played 3 or 4, is it 5 years now? with Westbrook, you should know, like, you know what Westbrook does. You know his poor decision making. Um, it's up to you to fix that. It's up to you to get the ball in your hand. You can.
Is it KD's job or the coach's job?
It's his team though.
It is the coach's job to do that, but it's his job to win. It's his job to make it happen.
I guess I'm not giving enough blame to Kevin Durant. I mean, he should be more vocal about it. But I think he's also trying to be a good teammate, and he knows that Russ is a hothead, and you've seen Russ not be in huddles at times and chuck shots. So I think Kevin Durant is just trying to be a good teammate, but he deserves probably some of the blame. But I'm gonna give most of the blame to Brooks. I just don't agree with his coaching style. I think he lets Russ get away with too much, and I think KD is not going to be vocal about it. So if this problem is going to be solved, it's going to be solved after they get a new coach, because Kevin Durant's going to stay the same most likely, and Russ is going to stay the same most likely unless they get a new coach.
Go back to Kevin Durant a sec. I'm gonna give an example. When the Miami Heat started out, they had a problem, and this is well documented. They had a problem on who's the alpha dog of the team. It was Dwayne Wade's team for years, right? He won a championship. Then LeBron and Bosh come over, and for the first year, you could tell there was an issue, like who's going to take over the team, who's the main guy, who needs to take a step back, and they worked it out within a year. I mean, they lost in the finals to the Mavs, and they worked it out that summer, and they came out a fresher, a better team. Going back to, like you mentioned, KD is maybe not that kind of guy, and that I think is going to hold him back in his career. You've been with Westbrook 5 years, or however many years. You can't talk about, hey, Westbrook, when you play as a point guard, when you facilitate instead of looking for your shot, we do better as a team. Why hasn't he told them that? I mean, we all want Westbrook to be aggressive. I mean, we all know that's who he is, but sometimes players have to take a step back from their egos and acknowledge, okay, this guy's better, the main guy on the team. And it is KD's job to go up to Russ and say, hey, dude, we need you to facilitate more. That's what we need from you. I mean, you are one of the best point guards in the league, but you're chucking up shots left and right. We don't need that. We need you to involve everybody. That's how we win. And he's too inconsistent. One game he'll have, like against Chris Paul, he had great games in the last series. He had great games where he was getting everyone involved. He was moving the ball around. He had triple doubles left and right. But then, you get games where he chucks up a lot of shots and he's forcing the issue and not passing the ball enough. And it's if I was a Thunder fan, it would be mind-boggling. Like, gosh, why haven't they worked this out already? You could put the blame on Brooks, but I put just as much blame on KD. It might be unfair, but that's what I think.
Well, how many times have you seen a player change his personality or playing style because of another player? It's usually because of a different coach or a different tactics that the coaches want to implement. It doesn't really come from other players. Players want to respect each other. You never heard of Michael telling Pippen to stop taking shots. I mean,
About the Russell Westbrook's a hothead point, I think they've mentioned multiple times that they're best friends. Like, if KD is scared to talk to Russell Westbrook, well, I don't think that's the case, basically. I think that they're boys. I think that they can talk to each other about this kind of stuff. I just think that KD is too complacent, and
that's going to hurt his career, man. I'm telling you.
I think so, too. And, that's fine. I mean, you can be complacent, you can be boys, but I don't think that's conducive to winning. And I think that we've talked a lot about, not just us, media in general has talked a lot about Russell Westbrook's shortcomings, but we don't talk that much about KD.
Yeah, he came out this year saying all the right things too. He won the MVP fair and square. He was the best player in the league. I mean, you can make a case for LeBron, but never mind. You can make a case for him every year. But KD kept saying, I mean, he's been saying all his career, I'm tired of being second. He was second in high school recruiting behind Greg Oden. He was second in the draft behind Greg Oden. He's been second MVP voting for like the last 3 years. And he finally gets it. And I'm still not seeing him be the alpha dog to take this team to the top. I need him to be ferocious. I like Popovich says, I want some nasty from KD. I'm not seeing it.
We could talk about OKC all day, and I'm sure we will get to OKC again in the future. But let's switch over to the East now and talk about the Pacers and the Heat. Shaheen, you pointed out that there was an interesting lineup that Spoelstra had out there, and Vogel really didn't want to adjust to match that lineup. You want to explain?
Yeah. It's interesting. In the fourth quarter, that Spoelstra switched to that ultra small lineup where you have LeBron as the power forward, basically. Bosch is the only other big. You got Norris Cole, Ray Allen, and I believe it was D Wade on the floor. So you had Stevenson guarding D Wade. You had Bosch matched up with Hibbert. You had LeBron against Paul George, and Paul George was doing all he can the whole game. He's a great defender. You had Norris Cole running around against I believe it was George Hill. But then here's the problem: Frank Vogel didn't want to leave David West out of the game, so he was matched up against Jesus Shuttlesworth. Guess what happened? 4 threes, bam! Oh man, it was pretty funny. I called it too. I told my dad, hey, David West is on Ray Allen. This is bad. And then, sure enough, he started draining threes.
Yeah, that lineup definitely worked in favor of Miami, but you saw Miami actually use that lineup in Game 2, and it didn't have the same effect. I don't know. I think Ray Allen he wasn't hitting his threes, and he wasn't getting open. David West was actually doing a decent job guarding him. So I mean, it was risky on Frank's part to not match, and I think he might in the future. But I give credit to Eric Spoelstra for going with it again, and for Allen for making those shots again. I think he had 4 threes in the fourth. I mean, and they were I think it was 4 for 4. I don't think he missed it at all. So hats off to Spoelstra and Ray Allen.
Yeah, credit Spoelstra for making the adjustment. I think he saw that as well.
Okay, so who do you guys have in this series then? I think personally, if Miami wins the next game, it's essentially over 3-1, and going back to Indiana, Indiana might win the next game, and it might be done in 6 games, but it's hard to see it going into 7 games like it did last year.
I think Miami will get up to a 3-1 series lead. They'll go back to Indy. Indy will take one more game, and Miami will finish in 6 games.
I don't have that in-depth guess, but I definitely have Miami. I think that this is their year. There was no real challenger in the East this year, and they've been coasting. I'm hoping that in the finals we can see someone really challenge them. Hopefully probably the Spurs.
I think the Spurs are more than capable of challenging the Heat. I might say I think they're the favorites. Just they're in better form in my opinion. But the thing with the Heat, and Rob mentioned this. I was talking to him before the podcast. They play up to the opponent's level, and they might coast against like bad teams in the regular season. But you always know the Heat have another gear, and I think they realize the Spurs are the biggest threat. And I mean, if they face them in the finals, I think Miami will raise their level of play. I mean, they'll have to, right? I mean, the Spurs are, to me, they look like they're in the finest form of any team in the playoffs. But I think Miami, I wouldn't bet on the series, but if gun to my head, I wouldn't pick against LeBron still,
I think LeBron is still the best player in the world. Even though KD won MVP, LeBron's the guy, and he can turn it on whenever he needs to. The only thing I wonder about is how does that affect the team when, you go all season kind of coasting, and LeBron can turn it on, but can the rest of the role players say turn it on? And the Spurs are, 12 men deep. They can pull anyone off the bench and they'll contribute right away. Uh, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of Miami responds if they can step up.
I've been impressed with Norris Cole. I think he could step up. I think Ray Allen could catch fire at any time. Obviously, he's one of the best shooters of all time. I think you're not. I don't think we're gonna see Shane Battier shoot like 7 threes again. They don't have Mike Miller. I don't know, man. I don't know about Miami. See, I wouldn't bet, but I wouldn't bet against LeBron. But I have a feeling the Spurs are the better team right now. I don't know.
Well, I think the Spurs were the better team last year too, and they lost. I mean, it was close, but they still lost. And I think I would expect something similar to happen this year too. That just Miami has too much talent when all the big three are clicking. Right now, two of the three are clicking. I don't know what's happening to Bosch. He has 27 points in his 3 games so far in the Indy series. He's just not there right now. But if he could pick it up and Wade and LeBron keep playing how they're playing, then I don't know if Miami will lose to San Antonio in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, Bosch is a huge part of what they do because there's so many matchup problems when Bosch could just sit at the 3-point line and have LeBron just feed him threes. But he's not knocking them down consistently at the moment. But if he does, Miami can beat anybody. So it's going to be interesting to see if Bosch gets it going sooner rather than later. I think Wade's fine. Wade looks good to me. Wade looks like a beast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Wade was initially what I was concerned about Miami. He only had 3 games scoring 20 points or more, but
Oof.
now it looks like Bosch hasn't even scored in double figures this entire series. I don't know about him.
But what if Thiago Splitter was on him though?
I'm probably overacting a little bit. I mean, Indiana has a great defense, and David West is a good defender, and Roy Hibbert gives matchup problems. I'm sure he'll do better against the Spurs, and he did last year, so I think he will do better.
I mean, if he's facing the Spurs, he's going to have to get some of Duncan. He's going to have to get some of Splitter, Diaw. I think Diaw could guard up to the 3-point line, so that could be useful for the Spurs. But I think Bosch could get a little bit of him inside. Splitter is a good defender inside, but I think you could use Bosch's 3-point shooting against Splitter. You could take Splitter away from the rim. That takes away another shot rim protector for the Spurs. See, I mean, Bosch presents so many problems. He just needs to knock down the 3-point shot.
I think that, I mean, this is kind of like what I was saying. I don't know if Bosch is the kind of player that can, step it up when the time needs to. Maybe when, LeBron's playing a little bit better, he'll get his act together. He'll get less attention, and, he can just turn into that, sit at the 3-point line and nail him. I don't think Bosch is that accurate a 3-point shooter that, he's that big a threat. I do think he has a lot of he causes a lot of matchup issues, but I don't think he's a huge factor in this series. I think that Tim Duncan, or in that series, I think Tim Duncan is much worse. And I think that big three-wise, it's basically LeBron versus Timmy, Manu, and Tony.
Bosch is shooting 34% from 3 this season, so that's not bad.
It's not bad, but
that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad for a big man per se, but in this series he's not even shooting that. He's shooting 17%. He's 2 for 12 from 3, and he was 0 for 5 in the first game.
This is against the best defense in the league.
But not for the last 3 months.
No, well, I mean, I think they've. I mean, they're keeping up with Miami. I think they're doing a good job. I think they've gotten back to form. I mean, obviously that first series, I remember we were giving the Pacers so much grief, and they deserved it. I mean, Hibbert didn't show up at all. Paul George was bad. Everyone was bad. Everyone was bad. But I think somewhere in the Washington series, it kind of clicked for them again. I think they're playing pretty well. Like I don't have any problems with them.
I don't know if they're completely back to form, but they're way better than what they were in these last few months. But they're not as good as they were last year for sure.
I agree. I think two teams that seriously impressed last year were the Pacers and the Warriors, and I think both teams kind of regressed this year. Um, Maybe expectations were too big after they kind of had a coming out party last year, but I think we expected more from them.
Do you guys fire Vogel if they lose a series?
No, definitely not.
Yeah, it's hard to see that why Vogel would be on the hot seat so suddenly. I mean, he did improve them from last year in terms of the regular season record, and we didn't expect him to really get past Miami. If he takes them to 6 games, then I think he has his job is safe.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, they did have a kind of meltdown, but I don't think that was on Brooks or Vogel. Sorry. Um, I think that was. I think this team was just more mentally fragile than they seemed last year, which is kind of crazy because I think last year the last word we would use to describe the Pacers was fragile in any way. So
Okay, let's change the topic to the coaching situations in the NBA. Who do the Lakers want to pick? What's happening with Memphis? And I guess we'll talk a little bit about Kerr, but let's start with Lionel Hollins.
Apparently, Lionel Hollins is going to be interviewed soon. They've been talking to some college coaches. I think Hollins is actually a good fit. I mean, they've been talking to Mike Dunleavy to come back and coach for them. In other news, I mean, what's happened today? There's some interesting news today about Dave. I don't know how to say his name. Jaeger? Is it Jaeger?
I don't know.
So apparently, like about an hour ago, actually, the owner of the Grizzlies on Twitter said that he's convinced Jorger. You know what, Dave to stay in Memphis. So Dave is staying in Memphis, although earlier today he was being dangled in front of Minnesota. Like I guess they were gonna want to trade him for a second round pick, and that's not happening anymore. The Wolves are looking at Lionel Hollins, George Karl, Sam Mitchell, and Tom Izzo or Billy Donovan. So they're looking at those guys. The Lakers are seemingly linked to every coach out there. So I don't know.
I don't think for the Lakers it's a question about fit. I don't think they have an identity as of yet. I mean, other than Kobe Bryant. I think they're just looking for good young talent. Like they'll take the best coach they can get. I'd be interested. I wonder, is there any chance that they'll look to college, kind of like the Celtics did? Mm-hmm. That would be pretty interesting to me.
The hot name after the national championship was Kevin Ollie, and he was getting. There were a lot of reports that he was going to be, he was going to get the Laker job, but I'm not so sure now. But I think he's still in the running. But again, like I said, everyone is. Oh, never mind. Kevin Ollie signed a new UConn deal, so never mind. $16 million for Kevin Ollie. Okay, that's actually a pretty good deal for him. Instead of the pressure of the NBA and having to recreate a Lakers team, might as well just stay in college when you just won a national championship.
It's a little surprising to me that we see all these big name college coaches in these rumors because they have a good gig going on. I mean, look at Kevin Ollie's new contract. I mean, that's a lot of money, and there's not that much pressure. I mean, if you don't do well in college, you could always rebuild a lot quicker. You just rebuild in 1 year essentially and find the next best recruits and get them. It's a lot less pressure, and I think they're comfortable where they are. I don't, and these big name colleges are going to pay them well. Brad Stevens wasn't paid necessarily well, which is why I think he considered the Celtics job also. I mean, the Celtics are a historic franchise, but Another interesting name was Byron Scott. I
I
mean, Byron Scott was a former Laker, so it'd be kind of
apparently
interesting
Byron
to see him
Scott
go
has
back as
interviewed
a
with the
coach, and I
Lakers.
think he did a decent job back in
Tom
New
Thibodeau
Orleans.
said that he. Apparently Byron Scott has interviewed with the Lakers. Tom Thibodeau said that he would only leave the Bulls if he could take the Knicks job. What? I don't know. I don't believe that rumor. That makes no sense. Why would you go to the Knicks and shun the Bulls? The Bulls are a better team right now. In fact, they could get Carmelo. The Bulls are
Who
a better
knows? That
team right
rumor
now.
might
In fact,
be
they could
true,
get
actually. I
Carmelo.
mean, the management doesn't really like Tom Thibodeau, and it's kind of a similar situation where we saw with the Warriors and how they didn't really like Mark Jackson, and that was enough to get him fired. I mean, now there's Steve Kerr.
Wait, let's ask Anu because we know how he feels about Mark Jackson. What do you think about that?
It's really interesting. I didn't see it coming. It's weird to go from an unexperienced head coach who only had a background in, well, playing and then commentating to go to another one. Especially after the first one was so well liked, I thought that they would go, like they had to go with someone with veteran leadership, a lot of experience. But I don't think it's a bad move. I don't think that Mark Jackson was an elite coach. I think he was average, maybe below average. I
What?
think that what
Why?
he brought to the table could be replicated. So I'm not that. If I'm Steve Kerr, I'm not that concerned about the shoes I'm filling.
I think Steve Kerr took the better job. I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's definitely less forgiving. Coaching in a rebuild that, it gives you some time to develop a team concept and chemistry with your team. We'll see.
Apparently, a rumor was that, this was reported that the Knicks tried to lowball him with an offer that was much below what the Warriors offered him, and he took the Warriors offer. But if you are a rebuilding team like the Knicks, why would you try to lowball a coach? He's not dumb. He knows that the team is not going anywhere anytime soon, and they have a huge situation with Carmelo. So why would you try to lowball the guy? They actually had an offer on the table, and they went and they revised the offer, and it was below their initial offer for Kerr. And Kerr was like, "Wait, I'm just going to take the Warriors job. They're offering me $25 million." So, yeah. And they're the better team. It was an easy decision for him, and I think it was the right decision. But for the Warriors, I think this is a mark of a bad organization. Oh, boom. The owner doesn't like a coach. Is that a basketball decision or is that a personal decision?
It sounds more like it was not a basketball decision, but there were basketball reasons why he should have been fired. I mean, we've heard the rumors that Mike Malone drew up most of the plays last year, and that it seemed like they kind of regressed from last year too. I mean, he's improved. Mark Jackson improved the team defensively every year he's been there, so I give him credit for that. But I mean, I think there were plenty of basketball reasons why he should have been fired, but he also got unlucky with injuries. His early years there, Steph was hurt, and then later with Lee and Bogut, so he was unlucky also.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also hearing Jeff Van Gundy is going to be interviewed by the Grizzlies. That's interesting. He's been away from coaching for a while, but that'd be interesting to have both the Van Gundy brothers in the league, with Stan being hired by the Detroit Pistons. I think that's a good job for Stan because I think he has more power than a regular coach does. I believe he has some team president credentials or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I heard that too.
Yeah.
Head of basketball operations or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good gig. Good job, Stan.
That's nice. I wouldn't mind it.
And he gets to work with another big man who is not a crybaby prima donna, Andre Drummond, who's very promising, 21 years old. He could mold him into an elite center, which, I mean, arguably he already is. And boom, there you go. You have a good solid anchor for your team, which is semi rebuilding. Move Josh Smith, and then there you go. Yeah, we're out of time.
Yeah, so thank you guys for listening in. We really appreciate it. And join us next time on Kill the Clock when we'll talk about the draft and the NBA Finals. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.